Here's a long one. Nothing but net. Oh, my goodness. Didn't see that coming. I'm diddly dee.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of All Nats. I am your host, Natalie. This episode, as you know, is brought to you by OTS. And today, I want to welcome back another friend of the show, Joe Viray, who you all know him. He doesn't need an introduction, but he is one of the best people to follow if you're not already. Talking Warriors, covering Warriors, breaking down the Warriors. And I like to think of Joe as like a teacher. I learn a lot from his writing and sort of the nuances he gets into. So I think most people in Dub Nation already know who you are and follow you. But if they're not, Joe, can you please let them know where to follow you and how to find your writing? And thank you and welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me again.
Of course.
Follow me at Joe Viray NBA. I find most of my work at Golden State of Mind. It's the SB Nation subsite for the Golden State Warriors. And yeah, just thanks for having me again and ready to talk Dubs basketball.
Okay. So is your most recent piece the Wiseman Steph piece, or was there something after
Mhm.
that? I may have missed it.
No, it's the
That's
most recent piece.
that's the most recent one, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So so first of all, what possessed you to like kind of go and look at that, like data and look into that?
Just
Was it
well,
like
first
stuff
of
from
all,
Summer League, or was it just
yes,
like curiosity?
it's both, mix of
Okay.
both, heavy mix of both. Like like you see all this Wiseman talk on the timeline, of course, and then in the summer league, I wrote 2 articles on Wiseman about summer league, and one of them was about his screening, his improved screening,
Right.
and then I flashed back to all those times where they did run the Steph Wiseman pick and roll in the 2021 off season, and it wasn't much,
Right.
in the article I said 79 possessions, and other tandems going into the hundreds. But yeah, I wanted to explore how that worked, what made it work so well, and is it more because Wiseman is this big human being who just naturally, if you just put him in pick and roll, he can do stuff with him, or is it
Right.
because more of Steph, like how Steph draws a lot of attention around screens, and that allows whoever you partner him with in the pick and roll to do whatever he wants to do,
Okay.
and that's what I wanted to explore, and what I found was pretty interesting, to say the least. So yeah, I would say, yeah, the Steph part of the equation is always going to be there. It's always going to be Steph, like I would say around 60 to 70% at least, at minimum. But yeah, Wiseman himself, like, even if he didn't set the screen that well, and there were times where he didn't set the screen at all,
Right.
but there were also times where he did do a good job of just being a large guy. You know, he can be more in that pairing. And, when I said 1.3 points per possession, that's already a pretty high,
Right.
considering like the frequency they ran it, which wasn't much. So I just wanted to explore that. I also highlighted one play that they mostly use was just called motion weak, and how it, like, I just wanted to theorize how it would look in the coming season, and also because since Steve Kerr said that Kevon Looney would be the guy to start and Wiseman would be the backup. I also wanted to mention how it would be more of Jordan Poole who would be paired with James Wiseman in the pick and roll.
That was going to be the next thing I was going
Yeah.
to get into, because I'm just like, will Wiseman even really be paired with Steph? Um, it wouldn't be him. So what what do you think about that? Like, if that's being ran with Jordan Poole, I mean, like, we haven't really seen that because Wiseman hasn't played.
hmm Uh, well, the Poole Wiseman pairing was even much more rare in the Steph
Right.
Wiseman pairing is like 27 possessions, I think.
And Poole was a very different player then
Yeah,
than
he
he
was a
is now.
mm-hmm. It was a mixture of pre-G League Jordan Poole
Right.
and I think post G League Wiseman was already injured, so they didn't run it that much. But yeah, like Jordan is a Steph doppelganger in several ways,
He
just because
is.
of his dynamic movement off the ball, the way he can create on the ball, and you know he's gonna draw the same kind of attention Steph's gonna draw around screens, and he's been much improved as a passer, as a decision maker. The one clip I posted on my article involved him just jacking up like trying to draw a foul around James Wiseman's screen, which he didn't need to because James already got his man clean on the screen.
Okay.
And it's those kinds of decision making
Right.
uh deficiencies that I don't think you'd see from him that all too much going forward. So, I just want to see how that pairing will be, you know, much more potent than it already was. It was around the same, generated the same amount of points per possession, 1.3, that sort of thing. Very efficient. Of course, the frequency is like the one caveat, but
What is that like in comparison to like the rest of the league?
well, like when you say points per possession, like 1 point per possession is basically decent,
Right.
and upwards is like it's above average. Below that is, it's bad. Like if you have a
Right.
0.8, 0.9 points per possession. So anything above 1 is good. 1.3 is really good.
Okay.
So yeah, Steve Kerr basically said that he made a mistake in terms of trying to put Wiseman into situations where he wasn't proficient at, like for example being an
Right.
Andrew Bogut type of guy, being even
Exactly.
a
Exactly.
Draymond kind of guy. And we saw that eventually in that season where he
Yeah.
ran more pick and roll, and he's basically saying right out of the gates that he's gonna run more actions tailored to his skill set next season.
Do you think
So
he's really gonna do that? Because I mean, we've heard Kerr talk before about he's gonna, and granted, he was talking about Steph, which is a little bit different because Steph has such a like a vast skill set. Whereas I think Wiseman is so raw, like it's understood that we got to use him in the best way possible. But do you think
mhm.
he's really going to do that, or do you think it's like something we're gonna start off seeing it and then he's gonna like go away from that?
To me it's either he does that or he minimizes the minutes for Wiseman,
Okay.
because uh like Steve Steve really, like, as much as possible he wants to run the offense, his
Yes.
offense, the
Yes.
team's offense
Yes.
around Steph, right? But yeah, um
And I
I
mean, the
think
thing is, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean like the thing is though,
yeah,
he
go ahead.
also wants to run that same offense, like no matter who's on the floor, though, right? And
Mhm,
so like they tried to utilize Jordan in the exact same way, and it as much as he's Steph like, I don't think you can like completely do everything the same with him the same, right?
mhm,
And then also it was interesting because like like Poole, he had like those comments about like basically figuring out like what his role is and how to play because like how they were trying to utilize him because he's not Clay, he's not
mhm,
right. It's like he's something in between the two of them, right?
yeah,
And so I'm just curious about how that will work. And I'm sorry I interrupted like your thought, what you were
no,
gonna
no,
say.
uh,
Please go ahead.
yeah, it's interesting because the Warriors, we all know the Warriors aren't really the most pick and roll heavy team, right? But there is history of Steve like upping the pick and roll frequency when the situation is high stakes, high leverage situations.
Right.
Uh, you know,
But does regular season count
like
for that? I mean,
regular
because
season, like me, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt,
okay.
but I don't know. Like, I think he will. I think he'll run more pick and roll stuff for Wiseman, It's just a matter of how much he'll put Wiseman on the floor, what time he'll see. Especially, it highly depends on what Wiseman will look like when he actually does get real minutes, because summer league he did show improvements in terms of screening, in terms of defense, but the fact of the matter is he hasn't had much time on the floor.
Right.
Like summer league was the first time in 4 months he saw real game action, because
Yeah, he got
he
into foul trouble like really
yeah,
easily.
foul trouble, and summer league allows like 10 fouls, right?
I
So
know, because I was like, wait, does he have 7 fouls? What
yeah, like seven
fouls did they
fouls and
allow?
stuff. Yeah, and like even in his rookie year, his foul rate, it was pretty high.
Right.
He was pretty jumpy. He was reaching. You saw less of that in summer league, but
He did.
it's still he's still not at the level you'd want a center to be at. On the other hand, if he's still foul prone in the regular season, I guess he's gonna be the backup to Kevon, so I don't know. He can be a foul sponge, I guess. It's okay. It's okay for him to commit those fouls, because he's not going to see that much minutes. But then again, the center depth isn't all that
Right.
deep. So um, but yeah, I mean, I think I'll give Steve Kerr the benefit of the doubt. I think he will run a bit more. I think he can afford to, especially in the bench lineups when Steph isn't there and some of the bench players are there.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has to. I think he has to, because James hasn't really shown that he can be a passer in
Right.
like unless he shows that, I don't think you can put him in those actions. So yeah.
What did you think about his mid-range shot? He was shooting that a bit
Hmm.
in the in summer league, and it looked good. I mean, it wasn't, but I mean, his form looked good. It looked good, and he was making some of them. So I mean, I know like this team is obviously more 3-point heavy, but like you don't want like I mean, he's gonna try to shoot some threes anyway, because I get that that's how he wants to play, or he wants to be able to develop that skill set. So that's obviously always good for the Warriors. But I kind of like the mid range. Like I thought he looked good and sort of confident on that shot.
It looked pretty good to me in summer league.
Yeah,
Um,
but I don't know what that
there,
would be like in the regular season against real
yeah.
NBA action.
And there was this thing I noticed in his rookie season, where to start the season off, the arc of his shot was pretty high. But then as the season progressively went on, it got more flat. I'm not really sure how much is that a function of the coaches in his ear, like trying to rework his shot, or is it because he had that wrist injury, right? Like
Right.
if you remember.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not really sure what happened there, but this, like in the very, very small sample size we saw in summer league, it looked okay. It looked like pre wrist injury Wiseman. Having said that, I'm not really sure if that should be a shot that he should be taking with high frequency or moderate frequency. Because to be a good
You prefer
mid-range.
him out like at the 3-point line? I mean, I know like he's gonna be in pick and
Mhm.
roll and he's gonna be inside, and that's great. But for like in this NBA, in this version of the
Yeah.
NBA, he's gonna need some sort of shot,
Mhm.
and maybe I'm just a little old school with this, but I don't necessarily love my bigs out at like the
Yeah.
3-point line. So I would prefer that it be that shot. Unless like a corner three,
Mhm.
you know. But I don't know. Tell me what you were gonna say.
Yeah, I'm just basing it off of his past percentages, past film, and all that. Where, if I remember correctly, his mid range, like the long mid range outside of the paint, but just below the 3-point line, somewhere around like 30, 31%, which isn't,
No.
which is a terrible, terrible
Right.
number. You need to be at least up in the 40s, right? So yeah, I mean, if he can prove that he can make that shot in regularly, I guess it's okay for me. DeAndre Ayton proved that he has a bit of a jumper. He can
Yeah.
make that mid range. If he can do that, then yeah.
But it took
Uh,
DeAndre some time to get there, right? Like it wasn't like
mhm,
over. Right. And so I feel like we have to remember that Wiseman is like really basically like a rookie,
mhm,
even though it's technically going to be his third season, but um he didn't play it all last year, really. And then his first year was cut very short. So
yeah,
to me, he's like a rookie. So um we'll see. We'll see.
yeah.
How do you I guess what is your overall like you did all this research, looked at film, you watched him in summer league, you have like the past, like what he did do while he was on the Warriors in his first year. What is your view on Wiseman? Because the fan base is very divided on this. Some people, it's almost like I feel like they're rooting for him to fail, so they can maybe be right, or I don't know. But then there's some people like, look, just give him a chance, and maybe there's like a third group, I don't even know. But I mean, I sort of fall in I think that there's things that he can offer of value. I don't expect him to be like a critical piece and like absolutely needed for us to like win everything. But I think, especially in terms of like the regular season, like buying some guys minutes and like when you just kind of need like a big presence on the floor. Because I remember there were games where like just his big body being out there, it did make a difference just in terms of like altering certain shots that other teams took and things like that. So not even thinking about like the foul trouble and other stuff, but I think defensively he can just help a little bit, especially if you're talking about playing him versus like second units. Um, so I don't know.
Yeah, I tend to fall. Well, me personally, when I look at guys who are on the roster, people who are acquired, people who are still there, I'm not really good at theorizing things in terms of who are we gonna trade for this guy or who should we get instead of this guy. I tend to look at the now, at the present. Like this guy's on the team, how can we make him useful?
Right.
How will he contribute to the team? So, in terms of like, oh, like Wiseman, we should have gotten them for a vet. We should have traded him for a vet. Like me, when I see like, I like, yeah, but which one exactly? If we offer Wiseman to this team that where the vet's coming from, will they even want the package that the Warriors are offering? So, like me, I just focus on how they will contribute because they're in the roster. You can't we're like they're gonna make the decisions, and
Right.
the decision they're making right now, Joe Lacob especially, he's on the record saying that he's not gonna trade Wiseman. Like he wants Wiseman to be a big part of the future, like
Mm-hmm.
the post big three future. And when I hear that, I don't necessarily say like, oh man, or like, oh no. I just think of it from the lens of, okay, he's not going anywhere. That's the reality of the situation. So how will he contribute? How can the Warriors develop him to the point where he will become a big piece?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I don't know. I guess you can call me I don't know. I don't even know if it's neutral. Maybe neutral. Like if you had to ask me if w- what I think of Wiseman personally in terms of how he'll develop, I think I'm more in the bullish end of the spectrum because like big men develop really slow compared to the other
Right.
position.
Yeah.
And when you consider Wiseman, the circumstances he had, it's even slower for him.
Right.
And I understand that the need for maximizing the championship window of the big three of Steph, especially. I understand that like completely, but there are other ways you can do that other than just completely mortgaging your future for win now
Right.
pieces. And we've seen plenty of examples too before where that failed. Like those, like you trade your future picks or your youth for a win now piece, and that didn't like it's
Right.
rare. It's rare that happens. And for me, as long as you have Steph on the team,
You have a
I
chance.
think you no
I
matter no matter
I
like you surround them with like decent pieces, you
I
always have a chance.
agree.
Yeah,
He can really make it's incredible, but he can kind of almost make anything work, which is a testament to his greatness. And I don't mean to take Steph for granted at all, but I guess the way that I look at it is like I don't feel like he's important, but I just don't think Wiseman is that integral that like whether he's there or not is going to be like this big difference. So I don't see the point in like trying to get rid of him, I guess, is what I'm saying. Like, he's just not going to be to me. Like, I think he's going to help and provide value, and he can. I just don't think, like, I'm not convinced that if you had like a veteran player, obviously it depends on who, but in terms of like who was out there and what's available, I'm not convinced that that person would be adding like substantially more value than what
yeah,
Wiseman is going to give you. And I think that's really what it comes down to for me.
yeah. And like I'm not necessarily shilling for Lacob and Myers.
I for
Lacob
sure am
especially,
not.
like, billionaires and all that. I'm, we have lots of money.
Yeah.
Uh but yeah, I mean, when you look at it from his perspective, it's at the end of the day, it's about the bottom line. The
Yeah.
NBA is a business, and they're always going to think about
Their
the
money.
amount of money. So, when you accept that, and you deal with it, if you deal with that, like, and you come to accept that, then you're not going to be much like that up in arms over the decisions they make. Like me, maybe I would have, like, if I was much younger, I would have been one of those people like, hey, why is it like, why aren't they paying that amount of money? But the reality of the situation is they're gonna maximize their profits and uh like minimize their costs. So just deal with, and like, they lost GP, they lost Otto. That those are big losses, no doubt. But the pieces they got to replace them aren't bad at all. No, Dante DiVincenzo, Jamichael Green,
Yeah. I
they're
was going to
they're
say,
not
like,
like.
I, I think I'm probably in the minority here where I don't think they're like that big of losses. Like I think they are pieces that I would have liked to have kept, but I feel like
Mhm.
the replacements are adequate. So it's like one of those things. It's like, yeah, you lost players that were really good, but or like really helpful, however you want to look at it. But you've also gained players that also can be really helpful as well, and they'll bring their own dynamic in what they do, and we'll see. I mean, I guess the way that I look at it is like, even though there were some people who were kind of like early on on Gary Payton the second and wanted him, right? Like I don't know that like what he ended up becoming, that people saw that and were like, oh, I knew he was going to provide that amount of value. So, I'm looking forward to like what Dante can do and bring, and also Jamichael. So I think those were really good pickups. I really do. So I'm not one of those people who's like, oh my God, we lost those guys. I wanted to keep both Otto and Gary Payton, but I also wasn't like one of the people like cursing the front office because they let them leave.
Yeah, I mean, I love GP.
I
He's my
did
kind of guy,
too.
because defense. I'm biased towards defense. Like, like, I want to see defense being played hard. I would I would more likely post a defensive clip than I would an offense, like a clip
For
on offense.
sure.
So he's my kind of guy, but it kind of broke my heart that they lost him. But that's the nature of the game. If
Yeah.
you're
I wanted him to
successful,
stay.
yeah. the more successful you are, the more you have to sacrifice.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I mean, I wish he would have stayed, but in terms of just like the team itself, I I think they'll be okay with the pieces they
Mhm.
got, provided health always, right? That's like the caveat I always say, provided health. They think if like the pieces we have are healthy, I like the squad. So that's where I land. So I mean the last two episodes I've spent a lot of time, like I had the guys on from Warriors Reddit, so they were
Mhm.
here.
I
You
watched
know,
that. I watched that.
thank you.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, I mean they went through like a lot of like contract stuff with me. And after I got back from summer league, Justin Grant and we recorded and we kind of like went through the players. So like the new players, right? So I kind of just want to like right now where we are, like kind of get your thoughts on, all right, the Warriors have won. That was great. I think we're all excited about that. But now, right, there's everything that's happened in the off season. So we've now had summer league, and you watched that and you tuned into that. We have like the new pieces. The roster is in theory for the most part almost there. So I kind of want to do like a status check, and I want to get your thoughts on like I want to just talk about that kind of like for the rest of the show. One thing I do want to ask you is, do you think Andre Iguodala is going to because he still hasn't made a decision, like when do you think he's going to make that decision? Is it before camp, after camp, like because they've kind of left it with him?
I am not sure when he'll make that decision, but I'm tending to think that at least before camp, like sometime before camp, he has to make that decision. Uh, I'm leaning toward him not coming back. You
Okay.
know, I don't know. Like if I were him, I'd just ride off into the sunset with my four rings, with my investments, with my podcast. It sounds like a perfect time to go for me if I was Andre. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, but I think I'm leaning toward him not going back. Um,
Now, do you think, okay, so like I get all the reasons why you're leaning that way, but based on like what you know about Andre and then like what you see that's out there, like who the Warriors have invited to camp, like
yeah.
in terms of like just for the team purposes, like better, do you think it would be better if he did come back again for another year, or like going with one of these other available options, who got the camp invites?
I'm not against them going back because, you know, at the end of the day, and like experience from a veteran, even if he spends majority of his time on the bench, it's important. And it's not like he's a veteran who just sits on the bench. He can contribute too. I think he can still
Kenny,
contribute provided that he's healthy.
I
Provided
mean,
that he's
we only
healthy.
had him like for a portion of the season, and then I feel like
Yeah, but
he didn't play the rest of the season.
the minutes he did play in the season, they were pretty okay. And
In
there
the
were
early
spots where,
part, but like after
yeah,
that, I was a little like,
yeah.
okay, I don't know if Andre really has any more left
And
to
that's
give.
what gives me pause too. Like, can he really be on the floor? But for me, as long as it doesn't turn into like a Udonis Haslam situation in Miami, where they're just keeping that spot open perpetually for him and he keeps accepting it, it's okay with me. But I don't think he'll do that. I don't think Andre will do that. He's more diversified in terms of off the court stuff. So if not this season, I think definitely the season after he will ride off into the sunset. But if he doesn't go back this season, I would really, really love Q Quindary Weatherspoon to get that final spot. So
But
yeah.
But okay, and I would too. I wanted Quinn to get the spot. I
Yeah.
feel bad, like I'm an Andre, traitor, but I'm not. Because I just feel like what Andre brings, I feel like they could still get that in the form of someone who's not on the roster. Like, just pay
Yeah.
him to like be a
Yeah.
part of the team and do that. I guess is what I'm saying. So because I have concerns about Andre's ability to really still give much, So it's like because there were definitely times throughout the regular season where it's like we were thin and I just felt like we just need a body to throw out there and he wasn't available. And so that's sort of like what I worry about a little bit. And so but it seems like Quinn regardless may not get that spot because they might want to like just keep him on a two-way as long as possible before converting him. So I wonder like even if Andre says no, like if he's gonna get that spot. Or do you think Quinn would and they would just put someone else on a two-way?
Well, if Andre retires and they keep Q on the two-way, they'll have 13. Yeah, they'll have 13 on the roster.
Yeah, but and they'll probably want
So
to do one more regardless.
they'll do one more, and unless they sign someone on the market like another big, like like Boogie's still out there, Whiteside's still out there, like whoever. But I would think that they would. I'm inclined that to lean towards them signing him to the 14 man, to 15 man, and then they'll slot in someone to the two-way. Like me, my personal wish is that they'll do that, and Trevion Williams will be the other two-way because that dude can pass for a big man. Like he's the perfect passing big man for the Warriors. Of course, the problem is he can't defend at this point, so you can't really make the pure Andrew Bogut comparison, for example. But yeah, I mean it's a two-way spot. He can contribute in spot minutes for the Warriors. And for me, if Andre retires or not, I think that's my ideal situation. Like Q on the as the 14th man and Trevion on the two-way.
Okay. Okay. So I would take it then that you're not big on Mac. um I
Uh
didn't hear you mention his name. So
yeah, he's entertaining. He's really he can really raise the roof, I guess. But yeah,
did the contract he
like
signed surprise you?
I don't know. No, I didn't because it's a training camp contract, right? It's non-guaranteed. Basically giving him a chance to, show that if he can be an NBA player.
But there's no
Uh
option to like convert it into like a two-way.
I'm not entirely sure if he's eligible for two-way.
Okay.
So I think in a two-way there's amount of years, service years that you are only uh qualified for. But yeah, I think him personally, I think he doesn't want to be on a two-way. I think
No, I
he wants to
know.
be on a
Right.
raw. He wants to be on a roster. Uh
That's why I'm like,
I don't
are you that's why
I
I
just
was
don't think that
surprised. I'm sorry, go
yeah.
ahead.
I
Because the Warriors, I don't think he's likely to make the roster. So I mean,
yeah.
that's like and look, you have to have confidence in yourself. So don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I don't feel like that's a super likely outcome, him making the roster. So I guess that's why I'm saying like that's why it surprised me because it's like I get that you want to be an NBA player, but then why wouldn't you at least go sign that with a team that maybe you had a better chance of making their roster?
Yeah. I mean, uh maybe he likes the Warriors. He likes how they play. He likes the culture.
Yeah.
I just don't think that he'll make it to the Warriors. Like as you said, the style doesn't really unless we see something like a change from him compared to summer league, where it's understandable if you want to get your own, if you want to show out. and stuff like that. But I just don't think that he's fit for the roster, for the culture, for the not I don't know, not the culture. I don't know how he is as a person. Maybe he will be a cooperative team player, but in terms of his style, I just don't see it meshing.
Yeah, it's
You
funny.
know,
Some people really liked Mac McClung, and then others just really didn't. So another sort of polarizing player.
yeah. The thing is, he's a scorer. He can create his own shot. He seeks his own shot most of the time. But the thing is, we already have plenty of guys who can do that. Of course, Steph. You have
But do you think he was
Jordan
just
Poole.
doing that? And I get like how he's always played in the past,
Hmm.
so I don't want to discount that. But
Yeah,
I just sort of think that summer league, some of that was about him just trying to display what he can do because it's not
yeah,
just for the Warriors, it's for
hmm,
everyone watching, right? Like he's sort of auditioning for multiple teams.
yeah,
So that's why, like, I don't necessarily just say, like, well, yeah, who we saw in Summer League is like who he is. But again, I get like there's past data on him and,
hmm,
but I sort of like, are we sure like that's like the only way he plays or that he wouldn't, I don't know. Look, I don't care. I don't feel I don't feel strongly about him. I'm always sort of curious. I kind of I'm so like impatient. I want the roster to kind of like shape out now so I know because I feel like on
yeah,
some level it makes it hard to sort of talk about the team and like what we may see and what may happen because I don't even know the lineups. I don't know who's gonna be. So it's like, come on, like for my content purposes, Warriors, hurry up. I want you to.
yeah. Unless something changes drastically, this is gonna be the, we're gonna keep talking about. Oh, is Mac gonna be good for the Warriors? Who's gonna take the 14th spot? It's gonna be the same all throughout the month until September 24th, which is the start of training camp. It just came out today, so
I mean, that's
yeah,
still like a bit away. So I'm
yeah.
hoping
It's
that
a
we
month and a
find out
half.
soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me what's been your biggest what move have you liked the most that the Warriors have made this off season?
Probably Dante DiVincenzo,
Okay.
because you know, I always thought highly of him when he was in the Bucks because he's just a really, really fundamentally sound defender. Uh, he's not as high up there compared to GP in terms of a perimeter defender, but the thing that I like the most about Dante is that he's very disciplined. He doesn't foul that much. And a part of that is because he's not as handsy compared to someone like GP. GP was like, he got a lot of deflections, a lot of steals, but with that, it also came with a lot of fouls. Like when like it's very funny that the foul rates of GP and Kent Bazemore were very similar. The difference is that the risks that GP took compared to Bazemore were calculated. They worked, and at the end of the day, when he got into foul trouble, he stayed disciplined. So that's the difference between him and Bazemore. With Dante, he's not handsy. He keeps his hands up. He uses his body to get in front of you. Uh, you know, and even when he's not as handsy, his steal rate is pretty not that far off from GP.
Right.
Uh, yeah, so that's what I love about him. And also he can space the floor too. Like I know GP
So
shot
that's what I was gonna say. I think he's a slightly better offensive player.
yeah. He like, there was a stretch late in the season last year where Dante made 40% of his catch and shoot threes with the Kings. So, you're basing that off of his last stretch. You have to be bullish about the way he can space the floor, how he can play off of Jordan, how to play off of Steph and Clay, and being like a legit 3 and D guy and a rebound, like guy who rebounds too. He can rebound for a small guy. Like Steph averages around, like, let's say 5 rebounds per 75 possessions, and Dante averages more than that, like close to 5.5. So 5.5 to 6, if I remember correctly. So, he can rebound.
Yeah,
So,
and before he got injured too, I mean, even like before, like he was on the Bucks before he left.
mhm,
He was really good for the Bucks too. So,
yeah,
um, I like the Dante pickup.
yeah. I mean, and he's very what do you call this? He's very uh malleable in terms of systems. Like he can fit in, he can cut like GP. So I really love that signing. I love the Jermichael signing too. It's just that Dante's more of my kind of player profile.
Yeah, I was
So
gonna say
yeah.
I really also like Jermichael too. And you know what? His like he rebounds also like pretty well too.
Mhm.
Um Actually I think even slightly a little bit better than Otto. So because
Yeah.
I mean, granted, yes, we're gonna have Wiseman now as the backup, but like I still think the Warriors are gonna have to like team rebound still. They're
Hmm.
still um on the smaller side. So,
Yeah, unless Wiseman becomes this rebounding machine, then yeah, they have to gang rebound, box out a lot. Wiggins said like he's never gonna average 4 rebounds again. We'll see if that happens during the regular season. Yeah. I mean, it's always been in him. So, and he there was this sort of like realization where, oh hey, I can do this rebounding thing during the playoffs. So, it's just something that like a mental block, I guess, that he had. So hopefully we'll see that in the regular season.
yeah, I feel pretty strongly. Well, maybe in part because it's a contract year, but I feel pretty strongly with Wiggs that like the finals unlocked something in him, and then plus he got like the all-star. So I mean, I don't know if he'll make an all-star again. Just because like it's tough in the West, and like, you'll have people like Kawhi and Paul George coming back, barring health. That's gonna be like challenging. But um I'm just like, I think you're gonna just see a better Andrew Wiggins going forward. I think I'm hoping he's more like the Andrew Wiggins we saw in the postseason. And that makes me happy because I'm like a Andrew Wiggins stan. So
Yeah. Hey, don't discount him going to another All Star because that K-pop vote is really, really strong.
it certainly is. I mean,
Yeah.
look, I would love that. I would love for him not to just be like a one-time all-star. But you have like some people you just know, like if they're just healthy, like they're gonna get the spots over him, like LeBron and Kawhi and Paul George. And so, um, and you have other players who are still out there like Cat, like just the other guys, assuming that they just have like their teams are decent and they have like regular seasons for them. So, um, but hopefully he'll still like, even if he doesn't make it, he'll sort of be like on that fringe all-star kind of radar,
Hmm.
that like maybe he could be like a backup, like an injury reserve if someone get. So, but I'm just hoping for more from Andrew, and I would love it if he just makes an all-star team again. So let's see what comes with him. Um, okay. So I think that's all my questions for today. I just kind of wanted to see how you were feeling about things so far this season. I'm excited. I'm excited for next year. Um, there have been like other teams around the league who have made some moves. How do you still feel about the Warrior? Well, how do you still feel? I should say, how do you feel about the Warriors for next year in terms of, I mean, we kind of have a sense of who the roster is, give or take like one or two pieces. So, do you think that they are in position to repeat, or did you see like anyone make moves around the league that made you say, man, this team like got better and they're like better than the Warriors? Because I have my one team who I think like can challenge the Warriors, but maybe two. But like outside of that, I still feel pretty confident that like they're like at the top of the league in terms of like the team. So I'm curious what you think.
Well, assuming they go back to the finals next year, the East, healthy Bucks are always a threat. We don't know how the Kevin Durant situation will end up, like where he'll end up if he stays, if he goes. Uh, Indications are he's not staying. But the Nets are like, no, like we have the power. The Celtics are always going to be really, really tough. They got Malcolm Brogdon. Uh, who else? The Heat, they're always tough too, and they're gonna be healthier next season. The Sixers, maybe the Sixers are, you know, they have James Harden, they have Joel Embiid, but I'm
Do you
personally
think
more
any of those teams are
concerned.
beating the Warriors, Joe? Come on, tell me. Give me a take.
Uh, the Bucks are more. I'm the most concerned about the Bucks because they've always been a pretty big like matchup nightmare, I would say, for the Warriors and Giannis. I love Giannis. He's going to be a problem for anyone in the league. So yeah, assuming they're healthy, they have Chris Middleton, Drew, and Giannis. They're always going to be a threat. I think out of the East, I think they're the one team who's capable of taking the Warriors to the limit, beating them maybe. I've always liked them, so
Yeah.
But let's go to the West. The West, the Clippers. The Clippers for me because of how much versatility they have and how much offense they have. They are capable of generating. They can guard. They have the personnel to guard the Warriors' offense. They have the coaching too, Ty Lue. So I'm pretty. I'm the most concerned about the Clippers. I would say the Nuggets got stronger too. I like the Bruce Brown pickup. I really, really love the Bruce Brown pickup because uh he's basically a mini. I would say he has similarities to GP, and he's in some ways a mini Draymond too, offensively. Um, Jokic. When you pair him with someone like a Bruce Brown, and then you improve their defensive capabilities with the KCP and the Bruce Brown too. Perimeter defense is the one weak spot they had, and we saw that in the first round last season. They're going to be tough. And then Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. are coming back. So I think they're going to be up there.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think Denver will be one of the top teams in the league, but I'm not concerned about them beating a healthy Warriors team. I'm in
yeah,
agreement with you on the Clippers, though.
I think the Warriors still beat the Nuggets. The Clippers, it's going to be a like if it comes to the two of them in the Western Conference, it's going to be tough. If there's a one team who can definitely put I wouldn't say a beat down, but just
Challenge
like
them.
if it a challenge,
Yeah.
they're the team. They're the team. The Lakers, the Lakers are Lakers. Like they can't shoot as of this current roster construction. They can't shoot, so I'm not really as concerned. Um, the Timberwolves, maybe they can have a bit of more bite with Rudy Gobert, but I think the Warriors can beat them. And yeah, like basically the Warriors can beat anyone with around, I would say, 80 to 90%. I'm sure they would beat them 80 to 90%, except for the Clippers. So it's much lower number, I would say, or 50, more 50-50 closer.
Okay. Yeah. I think the Warriors would beat the Bucks. And I think, and this is something I said even before like their injuries. I think that Drew is really their X factor. Um, I think that he needs to be good on offense. Like, what his defense is going to be,
Yeah.
but I think he needs to be good on offense and consistent for them to win a series
Hmm.
versus like a team like the Warriors. And I don't think you're going to get that consistency. And I don't know that I don't necessarily believe that it's like he's not able to, but I think when you're spending time on the floor defending someone the likes of Stephen Curry,
Hmm.
right? Like
Yeah.
that just takes a lot out of you. And over the course of a series, I just so I think the Bucks maybe 6 games, I guess, like because the greatness of Giannis and they're a really, really solid team. But I think ultimately the Warriors, like the offense would be too much for them ultimately.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I don't.
That's what I said though in season 2. Like when everyone was like so worried about the Bucks, I'm like, man, we're beating the Bucks.
Maybe I'm a bit biased because Giannis is one of my favorite players in the league. I really love Giannis. So yeah, I don't think they are as deep though as the Celtics. Like I think
Yeah,
the
we didn't
Celtics are
even talk about the Celtics. They made some moves.
yeah.
Does that they made moves, but yet you still kind of were more concerned about the Bucks. So, do you think the Celtics now have done enough to like catapult them to be like the best team in the East?
Yeah, I've always believed that if Chris Middleton was healthy in the East Finals, that I think the Bucks would have taken East semifinals. They would have taken that series. Um, the Celtics. I love the Malcolm Brogdon pickup, the Danilo Gallinari pickup. I'm not as big on it because I'm concerned about the defense, of course. Um, yeah, the Celtics as currently constructed, I think they have a final series like on their notch. They have the experience. It was a really hard experience for them, learning experience because they made a lot of mistakes that the Warriors forced them to make. Like the narrative that they shot their
Yeah,
own foot. It's not completely true. Warriors made them
no.
do like you can't tell me that GP made Jalen cuff up the ball, right? So yeah, but you know, um, Tatum,
I saw
yeah, he
Andrew
didn't.
Wiggins' defense giving people problems. That's what I saw.
Yeah, like Tatum did not perform up to his standards,
No.
but he's 24. He has more. I would assume he has more final series in his career in the future. Um, it's a learning experience for him.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tatum, I think for this is not really like I mean, it is about the Celtics, but this is just like my general rule of thumb. I think you need like a superstar. And like to me, like a top 5 player, maybe top 10, but I think like you need like one
Mhm.
of those guys. And I'm not one of those people who are like, oh, Tatum is a top 10 player. Like I have him as like a fringe top 10 player. I'm comfortable like having 10 players above him and he's like in the 11 to 15 range for me, sort of a thing. And so I think like he has to really break into that upper tier. And if he's that player, I think the Celtics have a different kind of chance. But I think you need one of those guys. I just don't think he's that player yet. But he might be able to evolve into that player. So I'm definitely not discounting that. But I think until he can be that kind of a player, then they're capped at like what they can do. And that was the same way I felt about the Suns and like Devin Booker. I'm like, okay, let's see him like really be like this guy come the postseason because I'm just like, they don't have a superstar.
And
Um,
that's like that's the thing. Like they had to make the most of their finals appearance last season, right?
right.
Because the East is not going to get any easier. I mean, if the Bucks get healthy, if the Heat get healthy, where I don't know, it depends on where Kevin Durant goes. If he stays
I'm not
East,
concerned about
it'll
they don't got a star either. These are all teams that are going to be really good in the regular season. And then,
yeah.
I mean, to me, there's limits to what Jimmy can do too, but we'll see.
Now, in relation to the Celtics, like
Right.
the competition they face out in the East, so it's not going to
That
be
makes sense.
an easy road back to the finals.
No, it won't. It won't. Okay. I did say that was the final question, but I do actually have one more question. I promise.
Yeah,
Final last
sure,
question.
sure.
Um, what are your thoughts on Brian Rollins?
I'm bullish on him. Like I did a
You're
piece on
bullish on
him.
a lot of things, Joe. What are you
I'll say
not
this.
bullish on? Tell me what you're not bullish on.
I'm more bullish on him than I am with PBJ, I would say, which is I would might be a controversial statement since PBJ is the higher draft pick and Rollins is someone they had to part cash with to acquire because they had to move the draft. But yeah, Ryan Rollins, he's not ready to contribute majorly this season. He's gonna be in the G League for sure, a lot most of the time. But I just like how, his profile. First of all, he's uh 6'4" with a 6'10" wingspan. And anyone with that kind of profile has a lot of defensive upside. So you know how I am with defense, how I'm biased with that. So he can be molded into this really solid defender. Offensively, the shot's not there yet, but he shot 80% on free throws in college. So, that's a really good indicator of being a decent to above average shooter in the NBA. So, he can run the pick and roll. He has shown flashes of playmaking. Like I'm not saying he's gonna be a Jordan Poole, but he can approximate someone who can be like a Jordan Poole kind of guy, maybe a role player who can do spot minutes in terms of being the guy who can run the offense, who can score in flashes, score in a pinch. And yeah, I mean, he's not going to play significant minutes this season. The roster's too cramped. He's going to be in the G League. But yeah, I really love the pick. If the Warriors can develop him, I see good things for him.
Okay. Andy Liu asked this question on the TL. He said, like, who's going to be next year's GP2? And people, I feel, took it like very literally. And they're just like, no one, GP2 is like irreplaceable. But I didn't like read the question like that. I sort of read it like kind of like who's going to be like that unexpected player that's going to like break
Yeah.
out or, something like that. And so I replied to his tweet and said Quinn, because I think ultimately Quinn is going to make the roster even if it's not before the season starts, like the final 15-man roster. But if who would be your pick for like the player that's going to like surprise us next season or like be like this kind of impact value player that basically kind of like outplays like what their contract is, right? Like which is what GP2 did. So I mean, my pick would be Quinn, and then maybe my second choice would be Moody, but I'm not sure.
Ooh, Moody. I forgot about Moses. I'm 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 inclined towards Dante DiVincenzo.
Outplaying the value of his contract, really? Because see, like I look at him like he's
Yeah.
that he's seasoned, but you think he's gonna have like a breakout, like not breakout, but like a really great season next season?
Yeah, I mean he's healthy. Like I'm just really really optimistic about how he'll contribute to the Warriors. I think he's the perfect guy to be in that slot as, maybe the seventh, eighth man on the roster.
I think
Just really
you're
love
right.
how
I
he
think he's seventh. I think that's right.
yeah, I just love how he plays defense. Like, what is he on right now? A part of the MLE.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I can. I think he can outplay that. I think he can
Okay.
to like because he's on the taxpayer MLE, and I think a team will pick like if he performs up to the standards that we're all expecting to, he's gonna he's gonna get gobbled up by another team, paid higher money, just like the GP did, just like Otto did, and that's the goal, right? Because if that's the thing, that means the Warriors will have success, won a championship. Other teams will see, oh, we have to snatch this guy away from him. So I just
Okay.
hope that will be. I just hope that happens. I hope that happens. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Joe, thank you so much as always for coming on and spending your time to chat with me. I really appreciate you. And really I'm a big fan of your work. So um I just, I don't know. I love kind of watching other content creators move, and I admire writers because I just think the work that goes into that and what you put in is incredible. It's not something I could ever do. And so I think you do tremendous work, and thank you for delivering such great content for us, and just keep doing it, please.
Same for you. Same for you. Keep doing it. I love how you're carving your own space in the podcast. the Warriors
Oh,
podcast uh
thank
space.
you.
So,
I appreciate
yeah,
that.
just thanks for having me. Love to be back someday again soon.
Oh, for
Love.
sure. You're going to be back for the season, but I had you on early and then like I don't know why I did this. There was like no real reason, but I kind of, it's my first year doing a podcast. So I was sort of like
Yeah.
I want to have like a different guest on like every week for the season and to see like if I
Mhm.
can pull it off. But there were definitely some times I'm like, damn, I really wish I would have had Joe on because like you wrote something or like, like there are just times I wanted to bring people back. So I'm not doing that next for this upcoming season. I'm just gonna like have the people on that I want. But that was my first year and it was like a learning,
Yeah.
exercise for me. So no, I for sure would like you to kind of be a regular on a few times. Because I need someone who can like really break down the Warriors for me in a way that I can't. And you do that well. So for sure I would love to have you back on.
Sure. Love to be back on.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, enjoy the rest of this off season. I hope you are finding time to get like a little rest in like I
Mm,
am because it's going to get busy for us very soon. So,
yeah.
I hope you're enjoying it.
Just enjoy, rest, and before you know it's gonna be hectic season again.
Yes. Yes. So, you take care. We will talk again soon. Any heads up on like what might be coming next for you that people should look out for?
Nothing really, just the usual musings and tweets about basketball. I've
Okay.
been watching a lot of other basketball stuff, like other than the Warriors, because in general I'm a basketball fan. So, yeah, just stay tuned. Hopefully by September 24, which is training camp, I'll have some stuff out. They'll be
Okay.
in Japan, so that's something to look forward to.
Yeah, that'll be cool. All right. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in again for another episode. Joe is great. I just can't comprehend I would have any follower that's not already following you. But if that's even possible, you just heard him. Go follow him and seriously read his work. Like he's so good at what he does. All right. Until next time, guys, take care.